Deman and Joe Miller.
It's good to be here, I'm not going to lie. I've been sat backstage all weekend thinking, you know what? I should probably get up there at some point and do something.
I kind of like to do that.
So let's start at the beginning. When did you guys first start working together? How was this friendship forged?
Good Lord. You were what, 15? 15, I think so. However many, 11 years ago now?
2002, I think, is when we first started working.
Yeah.
So we both played Battlefield 1942. And at that point, Lee just said to me, you know what, do you want to give it a try? Let's commentate some games over Winamp, all radio back then, and I think we had a good 30 to 50 listeners at that point, and it just really went from there. I had a much thicker, young northern accent at that stage.
Back then.
It's something that we haven't really covered across the weekend, as well as the superstar players. I mean, you guys, the casters, are such a massive part of the scene. Just your knowledge and sort of your enthusiasm as well certainly got me hooked. How did you guys even start getting into it, and how did you end up so good?
Basically, we all, as Joe just mentioned, we all started as players. Everybody kind of started as players, but every commentator's got their own little weird story. Like, it's especially for esports, because it wasn't a profession basically back then. It's become a profession now. It's definitely become a very good profession to try and aim for, but back then it wasn't really a thing. So it's kind of like we kind of stumbled into it effectively. I know, especially for League of Legends, when both of us kind of took off. We were doing obviously a lot of games for 8 years before then. But Joe happened to be working for a company that would started covering League of Legends, and I was like, oh, I'm playing that game. So next time you do it, give us a call on Skype, and we'll get in there, and we'll do this commentary. And that's how it all began. And then suddenly Season 1 came around, and we were sat in the studio in Season 1 going, oh, if we get like 20,000 views, it'd be all right. We had like 40, 50,000 views before the game even started.
Wow.
So we were just like, all right, this is actually starting to become legit.
This might work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like League of Legends was not my main game when I actually first started commentating it. I was a Counter-Strike commentator, and League of Legends was the game that I played on the side and didn't have to, put the work in terms of learning the game to actually commentate and do a good job there. And then Riot came to me and said, look, we'd like you to commentate League of Legends at the Season 1 finals. And I was kind of like, I don't know, because it's my fun game, It's the game that I like to play on the side, but eventually got into it and been casting ever since.
If we could shift focus to some of your peers real quick. Obviously, you guys are clearly not motivated by money. It's purely passion that this all comes from. But some of your peers who are set up next to us, your Koreans and the Chinese lot as well, they're earning close to millions, right, doing this casting. Is there any plans to crack into the Asian market for you two?
I don't know. It's very different over there. Sadly, my Chinese Mandarin's not up to scratch.
Damn it!
So not really a possibility. But as you mentioned, you do it for the love. Like up until probably 3-4 years ago, it really wasn't feasible to make a living from commentating, especially in esports. It's definitely become that way now. It's getting a lot better as more media attention starts to go towards it. Obviously, the money will flow with it. But back until then, I lost count the amount of events I did for free just for the love, effectively. Or you come away, you've lost money effectively because you had to pay your way to get there. God, thinking back to Denmark when we went there for Battlefield, we had to get the ferry, drive across to Denmark, catch a 16-hour ferry across, staying in the middle of nowhere in Denmark in the winter just for this one event that was basically done over radio, and then stay there an extra day because the ferry was like another 2 days later or something. So, oh my God, such a long journey, but we absolutely loved it.
Yeah, absolutely is just passion. I think if you're getting into this just to make money, you're not going to be successful because, the viewers at home, they see that you're passionate about it. And if you're just coming in for the money, it's hard to, I think, to fake that, if you like, to a level where they'll say, oh, this guy's really good, really loves the game. If you don't, you have to have that, doing it for your heart rather than just your wallet, I think.
And it's interesting, especially with a lot of the games coming out now that are aiming at esports, and they're trying to get certainly like commentators like us involved in it. It's hard to explain to them. It's like, unless I love the game, I don't really want to commentate it because, like you say, the passion's not there. You can feel it, and it shows.
Something that our cameras aren't picking up, by the way, is the amount of love that D-Man and Joe, in fact, all of our casters, our Korean and our Chinese friends as well, get from the crowd. It really is something that they're into. There'll be plenty of people watching this right now that want to get into casting. Is it something that's quite easy to start, but quite difficult to master?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to get into the industry in the first place. It's just like the players. There's a lot of people that will probably try and get into the industry and fail. Like when we were talking about, obviously, the passion, that's what it's got to come from. You don't understand the work that's involved, the screen time you're on, that's probably like a 10% of the actual work involved, the preparation that goes into it, the knowledge, the hours you have to play the games to figure out what's going on. Not to mention practice casting, looking it back, self-review. This is probably one of the highest jobs that you have to self-review in. It was always funny when I talk to other people, they're like, oh yeah, I've got my 6-month review coming up. 6 months? We do it every week. You have to. You have to watch each other. Right? Yeah, and if you don't like your own voice, it's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, that's something you have to learn. I think a lot of people, that's normal when you see yourself on camera or you listen to yourself. It's like, oh, I sound horrible, I look horrible. Yeah. And it's something that you really have to get over at the start, because I've lost count of the times that I've watched a video back and I've said, I was rubbish. I was rubbish yesterday and I need to change this, this, and this for tomorrow so that I can deliver the best possible show to everyone. And the thing is, I think things have definitely got easier for people to get into the scene in terms of technology. I mean, you've got your Twitches, your YouTube Live, YouTube itself, where you can obviously edit stuff and do it 20 times if you need to before you get it good. So, I mean, when we started, as we said, it was a plugin for Winamp called Shoutcast, which is where the name Shoutcaster comes from. And, you know, you had audio cables here, there, and everywhere. If you were really professional, you had a stand mic and a mixer if you were really rich. But, yeah, the technology's made it so much easier. And the fact that there are more people watching and viewing now, you get better feedback. A lot of harsh feedback, but it's easier these days through social media and, you know, Reddit, the likes of that, to actually get feedback and find out early on if you're actually good at it.
Your fans would kill me if I didn't ask you both this. You've obviously taken a brief hiatus from casting. Loads of love, both here in the arena and on social media, for having you both back. How does it feel to be back, and what brought you back in the first place?
Well, how can you not love this? In the first place, this is obviously great. You guys, obviously, the ones that brought me back to League of Legends. The problem with League of Legends is if you're not with Riot, you're not doing League of Legends. It's very much a closed market on that. We both work for a company called ESL. We are essentially freelancers almost in that role, where we can commentate across a plethora of games, which is a great position to be in currently when a lot of games in the industry are starting to take hold.
We're definitely seeing a trend of ex-pro players who end up becoming casters. Do you reckon we're going to see any of our pro players from this weekend ended up taking your jobs?
Probably. Taking our jobs, I'm not so sure about that. Yeah. I mean, as an expert, pro players or ex-pro players fit that perfectly, right? If you look at the Riot broadcast, you have Deficio, you have Crepo, you have Jat in there. You know, all guys that have played this game at the highest level, and it's same as football. You know, you look at the play-by-play commentators, the best ones. In fact, I can't think of any. Yeah, not many of them have really played football to the highest level. They've got a great voice. They're great at what they do. But the guys in the studio, the experts behind that, they've all played to the highest level, and you need to have a lot of knowledge. There's no doubt about that. And being a former pro basically puts you in the best position for that.
It definitely feels like your credentials is what gets you respect from the fans. Is it an absolute necessity to be an ex-pro gamer in order to be a caster as well?
For a color commentator, for the professional side, if there's a guy that you know who has played at the top level, you're going to listen to what he has to say when he says that's wrong, or if that's right. What this guy is doing is really good. You're going to listen to it a lot more than, say, a guy that perhaps you don't really know, like you've just seen him on the screen, he's telling you things, you think, well, what do you know? You've not played this game at this top level. We saw Soaz actually coming out from an interview saying only the pro players really know when a player is playing good or bad, because there's so many different factors. We can look at it and say that's a bad play, but they could immediately say that's because of this, that was possible. And we'll be like, we didn't know that.
So I won't let you run off without giving me a little oversight into what you've been impressed with this weekend. Are there any standout players or plays in particular, or teams in general that you've been really impressed by?
Well, to start off with, obviously, the English crowd here. I mean, we were here last year for the LCS Roadshow, and it was a smaller crowd there, but, I mean, it's just brilliant to be to see this in the UK, like we've worked so hard in the past on smaller UK events, and the UK, I think, especially when you compare it to North America and to other places in Europe, your Germanys, your Swedens, that we've always been behind. You know, there's still that stigma there in the UK that, you know, these guys that are earning so much money and playing on massive stages like this, people still think that they're playing from their mum's basement, and that is just not the case anymore. And to see, well, League of Legends in Wembley Arena is absolutely amazing.